Ah, sorry for the late entrance, guys. I just had to put on my face real quick. What? Oh, it must be my new look. Yeah. I wanted to try something a little different today. I hope you guys like it. I personally think it's a pretty doggone good look. Rawr. Boy, I wish Marvel would take more risks like this. I would gladly take 100 more of these gory, atmospheric monster movie homages over something like, say, an Eternal sequel. Werewolf by Night is the latest MCU Phase 4 project, and there have been some standouts in Phase 4, although certain titles turned out to be a little underwhelming. I've already expressed my dislike of Eternals, and Werewolf by Night is it was a definite risk for Marvel. This isn't your typical Marvel special. In fact, upon the revealing of the special's content rating, the composer and director Michael Giacchino was shocked that it only received a TV-14 rating because, with all the gore featured in the special, he was expecting a TVMA rating, which would make it appropriate for mature audiences only. Yeah, speaking of Michael Giacchino, yes, Michael Giacchino, the famous composer, is the director of this movie. This is his directorial debut, and what's interesting about that is we had no idea if he was even capable of directing a movie. I wasn't even aware that he was interested in directing movies, but apparently he had actually made a number of short films like in his childhood. He used to make a lot of films with his friends back in the day, and he's always been interested in directing, but of course he went on to deliver such iconic movie scores as The Incredibles, Star Trek, Up, and many Pixar films, and I just gotta say, he did a really fantastic job with this movie. I'm going to be getting into the technical aspects here in a little bit, but as far as like other MCU Phase 4 projects, this is one of the better directed ones. Like the visuals in this are just utterly astounding. So, what is the plot of Werewolf by Night? So it involves a group of hunters and assassins from all over the world gathering in this one place to obtain something called the Bloodstone. This family has been hunting supernatural entities for many, many decades, and one of them has passed away recently, and his old widow wants to see which of these hunters can next possess the Bloodstone, which one is worthy. So she's put together this hunt in which they will hunt not only each other, but this mysterious monster that dwells within this large maze. And you get to meet all of these colorful, unique characters, including Gail Garcia Bernal and Laura Donnelly. And there are some other surprise Marvel characters featured in the special. One that I actually wasn't aware of. I'm going to get into some mild spoilers here, guys, because I have to. As a Marvel fan, I've always loved the more monstrous creations in the comic books, one of them being Man-Thing. Man-Thing is featured in this special, and he has a couple of amazing moments in this in which you get to see his powers. When he touches someone, they basically dissolve, they turn into skeletons, and it was just so cool seeing Man-Thing in action, and I really hope that this isn't a one-shot thing. I would love to see more of these characters return in the future. So, if you dig the classic black and white Universal monster movies like Dracula, Frankenstein, and The Bride of Frankenstein, you will definitely appreciate this special. There are so many homages and references to classic Universal monster movies, like even the opening narration. The camera is showing all of these portraits, all of these drawings and sketches, and it looks as if the camera is just focused on these pieces of paper, kind of like what they would do in certain monster movies back in the day. You would have a narrator talking about what's going on, but you would see like these book pages on screen, and you would see like all of these different illustrations. That's what the opening of this sequence is, and the narrator's voice is very garbled and distorted. He kind of sounds as if he's speaking on an old-time radio. So right off the bat, you know exactly what this is. This is going to be an homage to classic monster movies, and I was fully okay with that, and it actually reminded me of the classic film The Wolfman, which is actually my favorite of the Universal monster movies for many reasons. I just think it's the most exciting, it has the most likable characters, but even the main character, Gail Garcia Bernal, he kind of reminded me a little bit of Lon Chaney Jr. in the original Wolfman. You have this very charismatic, likable guy who doesn't wish to cause harm to anyone, but he ultimately has no choice because he's been inflicted by the werewolf curse, and when he transforms, he often kills people that he has grown close to. Gail Garcia Bernal goes through the same predicament. He ends up forming a relationship with Laura Donnelly, which, by the way, Laura Donnelly, okay, she looks so much like Elsa Lanchester, the actress who played the Bride of Frankenstein in the 1935 film. It's honestly almost uncanny, and if they ever decide to do another version of The Bride of Frankenstein, you know exactly who to call, because Laura Donnelly looks a lot like the actress in that movie. In fact, her character's name, Elsa Bloodstone, I'm not overly familiar with her. I know she was present in the comics, but I'm wondering if her name was actually taken from that actress, Elsa Lanchester. Okay, so the technical aspects of this movie. So the shots are often very grainy, and you'll often see cigarette burns, those small circles in the corner of the screen. Cigarette burns were actually used back in the day. They were used in old films, indicating the change between reels on the film projectors. And the cinematography in this is just gorgeous. The majority of the special is in black and white. The angles are just so atmospheric and creepy, and you often have these lingering shots where a character will just be reacting to something scary off screen. There is this tremendous shot where you see Elsa Bloodstone reacting to Gail Garcia Bernal transforming into a werewolf, and the camera is just slowly moving in on her, and you just see the shadow of the werewolf on the wall behind her. It is just so classy and atmospheric and wonderful, and characters will often be wandering through dark rooms, and their faces will be lit just slightly. It's just it's so gothic, just so creepy, and I just really loved the technical aspects of this movie. And by the way, I guess you could consider this another mild spoiler, but the last few minutes of this movie are in color. You have the classic song "Somewhere Over the Rainbow," playing over the soundtrack, and the images gradually turn into color. And something about the color palette in the last few minutes of this movie, the colors were very vibrant, and it kind of looked as if Giacchino was paying homage to the Hammer films. The Hammer films that came out in the 50s, when they did revivals of, all those old monster movies. You had the Dracula films with Christopher Lee, you had The Curse of Frankenstein with Peter Cushing. The colors in those movies were often very bright and vibrant, a very technicolor. And the last few minutes of this movie looked like a Hammer film. So I'm wondering if that was an intentional homage, if they were, intentionally paying homage to those very colorful, bright Hammer films. That's just a thought that I had.
I wanna see this, darling.
The characters, okay. So the characters in this movie, in a mere 54 minutes, I grew to like every single one of them. At least the protagonist. I understood, what they were all about. I understood what their missions were. I understood what their personalities were like. This film does such a good job of establishing its characters. And, I sat through something like The Eternals, which was over 2 hours long and had a 2.5-hour runtime, and I barely gave a shit about any of the characters in that movie. This special is less than an hour, and I grew to like every single one of these protagonists, especially Gael Garcia Bernal. He is just so charming, he's so likable. He's kind of a, bumbling, he's kind of a bumbling individual, but you still, feel sorry for him in a way because he has no control over his transformations, like Lon Chaney Jr. in the original movie. Laura Donnelly's Elsa Bloodstone is fierce, vicious, total badass, She reminded me a little bit of a Rachel Weisz in the Mummy movies, especially in The Mummy Returns, when Rachel Weisz's character was, much stronger and much more willing to, fight people. Some of you may not agree with me, but just the sheer level of craftsmanship on display, the tight storytelling, the risks involved. Personally, this is my favorite, Phase 4 project. And, as mentioned earlier, I haven't liked all of Marvel's, projects in Phase 4. There have definitely been some problematic ones. Some films that turned out to be either average or subpar. Even the TV series, like, I can only think of maybe 2 or 3 Marvel TV series that have been good. The others have been a little mediocre and not very special, at least in my opinion. Feel free to disagree with me, guys, but Werewolf by Night just has so much about it that I love. And, even, the filmmaking. I mean, let's compare it to something like No Way Home. I mean, No Way Home was obviously a very fun film, but John Watts' directorial style, it's not the most unique. He doesn't have his own directorial stamp. The visuals in No Way Home were pretty standard. The cinematography was nothing to write home about. And yeah, I mean, there was just so much more craftsmanship in this movie. I mean, the sheer amount of artistry on display in Werewolf by Night, it was just mind-blowing. Like the set design, like a character will walk into a room and, the walls will have these heads on display, these, monster heads that have been put on display. The rooms are often just so gorgeous to look at. You'll have these, amazing paintings and murals on the wall, and it's just, yeah. Even though, it has its faults, I still really, really enjoyed Werewolf by Night. Some of the things that I disliked. So the fact that it was still shot on digital and made to look like old film, this has been done on several occasions, and I've never liked it personally. Even though the cinematography in this is very, very good, I think they could have shot an actual film. And I understand, this takes place in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so you want it to look modern still, you want it to, feel as if it's a part of this universe, but I think they still could have accomplished that by, filming this on actual film. And also, the plot does revolve around yet another stone that has immense power, a la the Infinity Stones. It's the typical Marvel MacGuffin we've seen 100 times. Also, the runtime. I wish this had been longer. I would gladly sit through 2 hours of this. I would have no problems if this was a full-length feature. Even if it wasn't released in theaters, I would gladly watch this on Disney+. I mean, it was just that entertaining and that fun to watch. So, and, Michael Giacchino. So I heard that the director of Blade, Marvel's Blade reboot, recently left. I'm not sure if he was let go or if he willingly left the project. But Michael Giacchino, he should direct the Blade reboot. I mean, Marvel, you have an opportunity here. Michael Giacchino did such a good job with this special. I mean, you have an opportunity just sitting there. Just hire him to make the next Blade movie. I think he would do a fantastic job. He clearly understands how to make this type of movie. A movie that contains all these creepy supernatural elements, but also being very action-packed and exciting. He can do it. Just hire Michael Giacchino. I mean, he's proven himself. Just make him direct the next Blade movie. I mean, just do it. Last thing I'll say, guys, I mean, it's Halloween. Werewolf by Night is the perfect special to watch during the Halloween season. I mean, it definitely got me in the mood. Honestly, I want to go out and I want to walk through a dark, empty forest, filled with fog and, other scary things of that nature, because this film just really got me in the mood for the spooky season. I thoroughly enjoyed Werewolf by Night. It might be an unpopular opinion of mine, but yes, I do think that this is the best thing to come out of Phase 4. At least so far. We still have Black Panther Wakanda Forever to look forward to, so that might top this. It did have an amazing trailer, but what did you guys think of Werewolf by Night? Do you think it's one of the better titles in Marvel's Phase 4? I'd love to hear your opinions as well. And also, guys, I added a couple of new things to my background. This Jack Skellington wreath, I'm not sure how much of you can see it, but my mom actually made this. She made this from scratch, and I wanted to put it here in my background because it is just that incredible. It's going to be a permanent addition to the office, and yeah. You can't really see it here, but I also have some DVDs, you know, sitting right here on a small table. I'm working on a mini documentary with some friends. We're going to be talking about childhood horror shows that we grew up with. I'm going to be releasing that on Halloween. That's my big project for Halloween this year. Next week is Halloween Ends, so I'll get to see more of my boy Michael Myers. But guys, I hope you're enjoying the October season. We have many titles to look forward to. I realize that I haven't been keeping up on all of the most recent horror features, but as mentioned in my last video, we did recently move, so I'm still getting settled in, I'm still getting things unpacked. But guys, enjoy Werewolf by Night. It is a treat. It is a pure treat, especially if you're a fan of those classic monster movies. But yeah, stay safe guys, and as always, stay scary, and yeah. I hope it isn't a full moon tonight, or I might actually transform into a werewolf and go on a killing spree. You never know, it might happen. But yes, take care guys, and thank you so much for joining me. Have a good day. I'm not scary.